Hello there, I'm Ava Jarvis with Solo Boarding, and today we are going to talk about the hard-ass game that is called The Lord of the Rings, the card game, and it is really tough. I am talking hard. I am talking Ghost Stories hard. Harder than Ghost Stories. I'm talking Space Hulk hard. But I enjoy the game, even though I can't build a deck to save my life. And here's how I actually started to enjoy it, instead of curse my luck and die all the time. And here's how you can also enjoy it if you are like me and you like to play the theme and you don't want to spend all your time building the most efficient deck ever. And this is my journey towards enjoying Lord of the Rings, the card game. So I started off with the one core set, and as you can see it's got some wear, so this is actually pretty old. I got it when it first came out, and I was so excited. It was so wonderful to have all of these cards. I mean, look at these cards. Look at these cards. So beautiful, and full of stuff. And look. I think that's Legolas, or at least his brother, or some relative, or something like that. Just look. Look at that. It's Eowyn. She's gonna do something badass. These are great. Oh. And the heroes. You can have Aragorn, Glorfindel. In later expansions, you can have Elrond and his two sons, Elrohir and Elladan. Later on, we got Galadriel and Celeborn, of course, but it's all about Galadriel and, of course, Haldir. But that all came later. So, how did I stick with the game when it was just so freaking hard? I couldn't get a win. I mean, like, we're talking evil, like, So as you can see, I got a second core set because I actually started liking the game. That's a lot. That's a big thing to say because I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. My avatar is Bilbo, and my login on BoardGameGeek is Bilbo at Bag End, and it will always be that. So I love Lord of the Rings, but I just hated these encounter cards. So look, this was my bane for the longest time. Passage through Mirkwood. Now, it is a level 1, difficulty 1 quest. And it beats the pants off of everybody who first tries it. I mean, like, the decks that come in the base game aren't that great if you're playing single-handed, alone. And so they just pretty much almost all don't survive Passage Through Mirkwood on your first play. Now, on subsequent plays, if you get really canny with your card play, or if you start constructing the deck like in Bjorn's Path, you can start to win it, but it is still pretty hard. In fact, I didn't win Passage Through Mirkwood until I played a Spirit deck and a Tactics deck together, two-handed. And to this day, I still play two-handed because, well, there are a lot of keywords like ranged and sentinel that really only come into play when you've got multiple players. And essentially, I feel that this is truly a cooperative game and not so much a solo game, but it's solo if you can do it two-handed. However, there's a large contingency of solo players who do play one single-handed who manage to win against things like Escape from Dol Guldur, although that's pretty tough. So, how did I start to like this game? Well, I really started to like this game first with the expansions. But that's an expensive road to go down. I mean, the expansions give you extra characters like Galadriel, Celeborn, Elrond, his sons, Gandalf, those 7 dwarves, Merry, Pippin, Sam, Bilbo, Frodo. Those are my big ones. And you also get Bard and different versions of Boromir and different versions of Aragorn too. You get Strider, for instance, who is pretty thematically fitting when you're going through the Saga expansions. But let me hold off on the Saga expansions from now. So I really only started enjoying the game when I got the expansions. But as I said, that's expensive to go down. So how do you enjoy the game when you only have one core set? There are 2 ways to do this. The first way is to go to Bjorn's Path. Now this is not a bad way to go. Bjorn's Path is sort of a walkthrough of how to construct a viable 40-card deck and actually get through Passage Through Mirkwood, Journey Down the Anduin, and Escape from Dol Guldur in one piece. Really, it's amazing. And it really shows you what you can do with a single core set and some canny card play. But, you know, that's sort of like, well, that's great, but that's just 3 quests. And then you have to face the wide world of, okay, now I'm going to go beyond Bjorn's Path. Easy mode is what you do. Basic mode even. Now, you may say to yourself, but Ava, that's kind of cheating. I'm not playing the real game as it was meant to be. Well, folly on that. I mean, the real game is arguable. Like, they made this game super tough, and they lost a large part of their audience because of that. And they know it. FFG knows it. So they came up with easy mode, but I think that easy mode is really the actual mode that this game should have been released at. Easy mode gives you an extra resource at the beginning of the game, so you have 2 resources on each hero. When you get to your first turn, you can do a lot with that. You got 6 resources now to do stuff with instead of only 3. That's a saving grace, so much so. The second important thing about easy mode is that it removes some of the most annoying, horrible cards to run into multiple copies of, or even 1 copy of. Like, let's see here. Spiders, the spiders. So, in easy mode, you keep all these cards, but you get rid of these cards. Now, these cards are caught in a web. Caught in a web removes a hero from play, basically. Well, not exactly. I mean, like, they can pay 2 resources to untap, but that's pretty much taking them out of play. You get 1, and you'll often get the other one, so that leaves you with 1 hero from there on. That's why people lost Passage Through Mirkwood. That and Ungoliant Spawn. This is the other reason people lost to Mirkwood, which is Hammer Horns. Hammer Horns are guaranteed hero kill. You get 2 of these, you get Hammer Horns, you're dead! There's no way around it. Eyes of the Forest, discard all event cards in hand. Yeah, that's great. So, too much of a challenge to hit people with on their very first game. That was a failure on Fantasy Flight's part. No doubt about it. So in easy mode, you just don't add these cards. You just have all the rest of the cards, and they are pretty bad enough. I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing quote-unquote wussy about going on easy mode. I think that this is truly the way the game should have been designed from the first set up from the first get-go. You remove the hard cards, and you only add them in when you feel like you're ready to start serious deck building. And that's the way it frankly should have been. I mean, So that was just one. Let me see. Can I think of others? Okay, the others. The Goblin deck. Okay. This is a horrible treachery. Deal 1 damage to each exhausted character. That kills off your allies. Now, that's fine. There's 1 copy in the normal difficulty game. But in the basic, the easy mode game. But in the regular difficulty mode game, there are 3 of these things. So you're gonna have issues if you even just run into 2 in one go, or even if you just run into 3. So it's bad enough to have 1 copy, but having 3 is pretty horrible. It's a good way to die. And this other good way to die, he's pretty bad. And yeah, removing extra copies of Necromancer's Pass and the Dull Gold or Shadow Beasts. Those are good changes. These are good changes. Do not feel bad because you are playing on easy mode. This is the mode that FFG owes all of its Lord of the Rings TCG fans. This is the way it should be. Now, the other way that I started actually enjoying the game again was the Saga expansions. Now, this is different from the deluxe expansions or those little tiny card expansions because they actually tell a coherent story. Now, the first run of quests through the small expansions and the core game, a lot of them reflect stories that happened in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Things that, you're like, Pastor Schumacher, that kind of sounds like something that happened in The Hobbit. And it was weird, but it wasn't exactly like The Hobbit. They couldn't do that on their first go because they didn't have as good a handle on things. And it shows in the quest design. I mean, Escape from Dol Guldur, really arguably one of the worst quest designs in the entire game. All of it. That's a lot of cards. And so yeah. But the Saga expansions tell the stories that are in Lord of the Rings, instead of fan fiction, basically. And it's great because it was with the Saga expansions that they started thinking, oh, okay, let's try to add some mode that doesn't beat people up, so they actually buy our Saga expansions. So that's what they did. And so we've got The Hobbit now. The entire story is now 2 Saga expansions. And if you go on easy mode and all you had was the core set and the Saga expansions, you would have a good time on easy mode. You would probably have a good time on basic mode, which is kind of like easy mode taken, easy mode without the shadow effects. Shadow cards are pretty horrible. They add a lot of uncertainty towards the defense and whatever, and that can be necessary in a game if you are not new to it, but if you are new to it, it's a good way to die. So I recommend, if you are starting out with Lord of the Rings TCG, to go with easy mode without shadow cards, also known as basic mode. You can ramp it up later if you really want to. There's nothing wussy about any of this. So, Unexpected Party, and then you've got those, then you are, let's see here, then you've got the Goblins, and you've got Riddles in the Dark. I'm going through these too fast. But then we've got the second set. We've got the, oh my gosh, look at the Battle of 5 Armies. Isn't that beautiful? And look, There's a whole lot of cards in here actually, and I marked out the ones to remove. Let's take a look at the ones we removed. We removed the Vanguard of Bolg. This enemy gets +1 threat, +1 attack, and +1 defense for each quest stage in play with no progress on it. Yeah, no. Ravenous Warg. When Ravenous Warg attacks, the defending player must declare the character he controls with the most damage as the defender, even if exhausted. Yeah, no. No. There are 2 copies of this one? Oh, great. There are 2 copies of Goblins Are Upon You. Yeah, that sounds great. So anyways, those are removed, and I swear, I'm just going to start calling easy mode sensible mode or story mode. They should have called it story mode. Because that's really what happens when you remove the hard cards, and even when you remove shadow effects. You start to get decks that would not usually be viable in the normal game. They become viable again. You can have a deck that doesn't use allies. That doesn't fly in the normal game, but it flies pretty much okay in the basic game and even the easy game. You can create thematic decks. I mean, like, given that if you have a bunch of expansions, you can build all elf decks, and the accidental synergy that happens when you do that will actually get you through a lot of pain. And playing two-handed, too, will get you through a lot of quests. Although there are some quests that are harder when you are playing two-handed. But anyways, so you can have all elf decks, all hobbit decks, all dwarf decks. Dwarf decks are actually the easiest to build. And what was I going to say? It's fun now. It tells a story, and you can concentrate on the story without worrying about, well, you still have to worry about not dying, but you have to worry less. And that, when you are like me and you play for the theme, that is way more important than making the game as hard as possible. The game still presents a challenge. I mean, Escape from Dol Guldur will still kick your hiney if you are not totally prepared for the pain that it deals out, even on basic mode. But it's a lot more enjoyable. And to me, that is way more important than, am I playing by the awesomest rules possible? Because believe me, if you think that you are playing top notch, there is a notch above you, and that's Nightmare mode. They come out with these special print-on-demand Nightmare decks that have even harder cards in them, and just basically, why, unless you are ready for the challenge, why make it worse for yourself? Why try to be macho about it? You bought the game. You spent money on this game. You spent at least $25 on this game if you got it used, and you had to pay shipping on it. So you might as well make the most of it. And if you actually started buying expansions, you might as well make the most of them too. And one of the things I really like about solo gaming is that you can play however you want to play. It's just pretty much you are trying to enjoy things, so you make them as hard as they are or as easy as they are to continue enjoying them. And that's a huge advantage of solo gaming that isn't really available in multiplayer unless your whole group is into house ruling, which is not always the case. But house rules, yeah, and these are official house rules that make the game fun. Why would you not play with them? I play with them, and I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. Although I should have gotten one of my many Lord of the Rings shirts, but Doctor Who too is pretty awesome, and I will probably blab about the solitaire storytelling game for Doctor Who, but after the holidays. Anyways, this is Ava Jarvis signing off for solo boarding. Have fun, and remember, Easy mode is story mode, and there is nothing wrong with that.